L'chaim, l'chaim. This year is 212 years since the Stalkers of the Alter Rebbe, and a Yom Elul and Dave the Stalkers of any of the Rabbeim. There's a few points to touch on. One point is about the Stalkers, moves of the situations of the Stalkers. There's also the point, as the Rebbe noted many times, that Beis Nissen is not the focal point about the Stalkers of the Rebbe Rashab, but the focal point would be about the Kabbalahs and the Seas of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And then also there's the Indian, like the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, that the day of the Stalkers, it's not the day of the Stalkers, but it's the culmination of his entire life. And what could we learn from that? Being that last year I spoke a little bit about the Stalkers itself, so I decided I'll start off this year about the Indian of the Alter Rebbe's life. And obviously, me ani umani to say what is the main Indian of the Alter Rebbe. But I would like to bring it out through a known story and a hesber that I heard from Rabbi Mangel around 10 years ago. In Shmuz Sipurim, there's brought down a story that once when the Alter Rebbe visited the city of Hamel, a fire broke out in the city, and they tried to extinguish it, but to no avail. The Chassidim went and they informed the Alter Rebbe about the fire. The Alter Rebbe went over. At the Changespart, he leaned on his cane, he looked at the fire, and the fire subsided. The officers that were there informed the general of the town, and the general came over to the Alter Rebbe and asked him, "Are you perhaps the Baal Shem Tov or his son?" And he said, "No, I'm not the Baal Shem Tov, I'm not his son, I'm his spiritual grandson." Ad kan ha'maisa, then it goes on. The Alter Rebbe asked him how he knows the Baal Shem Tov, and he told him the maisa that when his father was a general and he didn't get a letter from his mother, and he came to the Baal Shem Tov and he looked in the mirror and he saw that he came to his city and he was the baby that was born. But obviously it's a nice story, but the story is worthless unless we can learn something from it as a mashal. And he mentioned as follows. Hammel's given a Hasidische Stadt. Rabbi Isaac Hamler was the Rav of Hammel. It's given a Hasidische Stadt. Nevertheless, even in a Hasidische Stadt, as can brennen a fire, a big flame could be burning. A fire doesn't mean a physical fire. A fire means Resichas Adam, passions, desires, the culture, everything that's going on in the world, and it pulls people in, and lav dafka, there's a way to be safe from it. Rahman al-Islam, when a fire catches and starts spreading, it's very difficult, as we all know what's going on in California, and like many Yidden, they lost their homes, v'chulu v'chulu. Halavai will only be that they lost their rechushim, and nothing worse than that. But a fire sweeps people with it. And there's no way to stop it. The government's trying to stop it with helicopters, with this, und es hilft nicht. So the Alter Rebbe came and the Alter Rebbe looked at it. And when the Alter Rebbe looked at it, the fire subsided. The shaila is, how did the fire subside? By the stalkers by the looking, the intense looking of the Alter Rebbe. And the answer is, a person could be caught up in the hua of peer pressure and the culture and everything that's going on around us. When we look at the world, that the world's a grace of Metzias, und es nimmt on earth, it's an important part of our life, and we reckon with the world. However, when the Alter Rebbe came and he looked at the world, he looked at that passion, that desire, he looked at it with his perspective, with his abata, his understanding. And when you look at it with his understanding, as the Welt is nicht Metzias, the world is not real. It's only it's only doing what the Eibishter wants it to do. And it's not really Teves Mokim. So then, why should I be nispal from it? Why should that influence me? Why should I be caught up in those passions? It's, for example, by the stalkers of the Rebbe Rashab, we all know that before the stalkers, the Rebbe Rashab said that nobody should come to his house because of the curfew v'chulu. But then on Purim, everybody thought he'll be the only chacham that will come. And in the middle of the Farbrengen, the soldiers entered after they were told a couple times to return later. And the Rebbe Rashab told them, Kukenishavzei. Don't look at them, they're not from Metzias, and they're not important. And evidently he was implying, if you would look at them, that will make them the Metzias. That's like the Rebbe explains in the Sicha, Trachgut with Zaingut, that the fact that the Pasuk says that Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid, that gave the ability to Parei to try to chas v'shalom kill him. If Moshe Rabbeinu wouldn't have been afraid, nothing would have happened. So the Metzias is only if we consider it a Metzias. But if we look at the world the way the Rabbeim look at the world, then it's not a Metzias. So then comes the question, versteht sich, the Rabbeim and the Dag of Das Elyon, they send the emes, they feel the truth, as the Eibishter is out, Einay Milvadei, Bein Zulosei, there's nothing besides the Eibishter, so and the Welt is nicht Teves Mokim, it's only here because the Eibishter wants it to be here. But how could Anoshim Kekeinu, how could simple people like us look at that with the same perspective as the Rabbeim look at it? And that we can explain with a story that happened after the Alter Rebbe's Istalkus. After the Alter Rebbe's Istalkus, as everybody knows, the Alter Rebbe was Nestalik in Kfar Piyena, and he was buried around 90 kilometers away in Haditch. Shortly after he was buried in Haditch, the federal government informed the provincial government that they made a mistake. Instead of giving the Jewish community of Haditch land that belonged to the provincial government, they gave land that belonged to the federal government, and the federal government wants it back. And therefore, all the kvarim have to be dug up and removed, or else they'll do with it whatever they want. The provincial government responded that it was a mistake, it was an honest mistake, and they're willing to give the federal government equal land that they took away, and as a kanas, they'll give them some extra land, but let the Sheikh Niyafa remain where they are. But the federal government demanded to stand on principles. It's our land, it was taken away. Shloi kedin, we want it back, and everybody has to be moved out, or we'll destroy it when we take it over. Versteht sich that the Mittler Rebbe was very bothered by this, and he was trying to figure out Eitzes B'darkei HaTeva, how to mitigate this problem, resolve the situation. And they found out that one of the people that work in the minister's office, a high official, used to be a Talmud of the Alter Rebbe. And his chavrusa was Moshe Valenker. So the Mittler Rebbe asked Moshe Valenker to go to him and ask him to accept a switch of lands. Moshe Valenker came, and the person accepted him, but he started presenting the request, and he told him, a chassid bleibt a chassid, you'll come to my house tonight, you'll bring your own food that's kosher, v'chulu v'chulu, but I don't deal until we have a farbrengen. A hotnish abreya, he has no choice, okay, let's go, we'll come. He comes over at the bashtimta time, and this officer, this high official tells him, I always had shilas in Amunah. And I once went into Yechidus and I asked the Rebbe, hey, Alter Rebbe, about it. And the Rebbe told me I should go to Reb Shlomo Karliner. Now the Seder, I went to Karlin, but the Seder over there was a different Seder. Instead of going into the Rebbe's room and asking the Rebbe a shaila and the Rebbe answering you, everybody sat in the Beis HaMedrash, and the tzaddik of Shlomo Karliner remained in his room, and then he would come out of his room and he would say a few words, and whoever understood the words got the answer to their shaila, and they left. And you would see every time he came in, he said something, somebody picked up and left, then the tzaddik would go back to his room, be there for a while, come out, and another person left. I didn't understand the whole thing. I'm looking around a bit of a and I look in the room and I see the tzaddik pacing back and forth for a few minutes, and then he comes out and he says, Young man, after fortis got, young man, maybe after everything's said and done, there is a God, there is a creator, and I didn't understand the answer, nobody understood the answer, and everybody's remaining sitting in the place. The tzaddik came out a second time, repeated it, and then he came out the third time and repeated it. By that time I realized he's speaking to me. But I didn't get an answer. Maybe yeah, but maybe no. That was my whole question. And I didn't come back to the Rebbe Liyadi or Liyoshno. I went back. I went to Petersburg. I went into college, the Chulu, and I dropped everything. And I became a high official. He says, you see my house? My house looks like a palace. Even in Petersburg, who's speaking about the Shtetlach that the Yidden live in? I have covered malachim, I have whatever I want. I take a vacation when I want, I buy what I want. Nothing's a problem. I promise you, I don't have any enjoyment my whole life. Every time I eat something that's also the words of Reb Shlomo Kalina, the tzaddik ring in my ear, after fighters from a God, maybe after everything's said and done, there's a God. So Hasidim ask, why did the Alter Rebbe have to send him to Reb Shlomo Kalina? The Alter Rebbe could have told it him himself. And the Chassidim answered, weil der Alter Rebbe meint Vadaus, nicht a Sofik. Chassidus Chabad is not Oisius Poiches Ba'avir, good words that inspire somebody for 5 minutes and then dissipate. The Alter Rebbe is Chabad. Chabad is L'shem Yuchel Kutshe Brichu Shchintei L'yachad Yurkei Bevovkei, that the Seichel should come down into the Midas and into Maisa. Yurkei is Chachma Bina, Vav is Midas, and the last Hayachreina is Maisa's action. The Alter Rebbe demanded Vados. Vados means that we learn a mimer, we learn something with a clarkite. L'mashal. Today's Shir Tanya is one of the prakim in Tanya that everybody has a good idea about it. The difference of avodei v'lei avodei. The Alter Rebbe says lei avodei is a person learns 100 times because at that time the custom was to review it 100 times. Avodah means he serves Hashem because he goes above his nature and he learns it 101 times. Nobody learns anything nowadays 100 times. Nobody learns it 101 times. So what does it mean in practical terms? Let us be honest with ourselves. Lass mich verstehen. Let us understand, what does the Alter Rebbe mean? The Alter Rebbe Tanya is not words. It was eitzes that the Alter Rebbe says and writes in the Akdama we should implement in our life. How do I implement 101 times into my life? And the answer is a practical way. Lei Avodei means that I do everything mitzvahs anoshim kilmada. I do everything on rote. I have a chavrusa before davening. I learn Chassidus before davening. I come on time. I spend my hour and a half, whatever it is, a half hour. I learn. This is what I do before davening. Then I daven, etc., etc. That is lei avodei. Avodei means I learn with a chayus, I learn with a feeling. After I learned for the half hour, or I learned for 20 minutes out of the half hour, the last 10 minutes, I speak to myself or to my chavrusa, my study partner, and I say, what is the takeaway from this? What did we learn today? What does it mean in practical terms? How could I apply it to my life? And that way, we look at it with the same look as the Rabbeim taught us to look at it. When we look at Hasidus, the Hasidus is real. It's not just an intellectual exercise. We're not the maskilim of Kremenchuk that understand Hasidus, but it doesn't change our life. Thus is mitzvahs anash klumada. We do it just because that's how we were raised to. Thus is lei avadei. Avadei means that we do it, we learn it, and we understand it, and we try to apply it to ourselves. And this way, when we do it that way, we're able to kavish, we're able to withstand and extinguish the fires, the culture that's trying to overcome us, and we're able to extinguish it because we're not looking at it from the perspective that the world is a big metzius, but we're looking at the perspective that the world is a creation of the Eibishter, and it has no power on its own, and therefore there's nothing to be nisbal about. L'chaim, l'chaim, may we be connected to the Alter Rebbe, to all the Rabbeim, and this way we'll be zeicher to bring down the Shechina Lamata Begula Amitis L'chaim.